Thank you so much. Good evening, everybody. Her Excellency, the First Lady, Honorable Ministers, ladies, gentlemen, and the future of Rwanda and the future of Africa. Good evening. My name is Ashish Thakkar. I was a refugee. I'm a school dropout. I'm an entrepreneur, an astronaut, and a philanthropist. And more important, I'm African. I'll give you a quick background on my family. In 1890, my family moved from India to East Africa. My father's family moved to Uganda. And 1920, similarly, my mother's family shifted to Tanzania. So I'm a fourth generation East African. My parents, at that time, the family shifted purely looking for trading opportunities. After my parents got married, they lived in Kenya for a little bit and then moved back to Uganda. In 1972, the Idi Amin saga took place in Uganda. So my family was expelled. We moved to England, and we'd lost everything we had. So my father worked in the Ford factory. My mother worked in the Walker's Crisp factory. They built a little bit of capital, set up a small business, built a little bit more capital, bought a small home. But in '93, they said, we want to come back home, we want to come back to Africa. So we sold the home, we sold the business, and we moved to Rwanda. A year later, me, my sister, my parents got caught in the genocide in Rwanda. And we spent about 3.5 weeks here, and then we were fled to Bujumbura and then to Nairobi. So we moved back to Uganda as a family, and we'd lost everything that we built from '72 to '93 in '94. So we started again in Uganda. At this time, I'm a teenager, I'm young, I can understand what's happening, and my family, literally the only assets that my family had were the clothes we were wearing. We had nothing else. We had no bank accounts, we had nothing. So I could see that even family, I could see people avoiding my parents, scared that if they come too close to my parents may ask for a favor. So with that in mind, I wanted to do something about it, and I needed to do something about it. So I quit my education at the age of 15. And before, when I was thinking about quitting my education, at that time I really loved IT. I really loved computers. So I convinced my parents to buy me a small computer. At that time, it was a 386 in 1996. And they bought me a computer, and my father's friend came home for dinner. And he asked me, he said, oh, this is a really nice computer. I said, yeah, you know, I've actually got 2 of them. He said, what are you doing with the second one? I said, I'm selling it. So he said, how much for? So I told him a price, which was $100 more than I actually bought it for. So he said, oh, great, can you deliver it tomorrow? I said, yeah, sure. You know, so while they're having dinner, I was cleaning my computer because I didn't have another one. And I was packing it and deleting all the files, making sure it looks new. And the next day after school, I went and delivered it, and I made $100. So I was like, this is actually pretty good. So every day after school, I would try and sell a computer. And I would be walking on the streets and going door to door trying to sell it. And then my summer holidays came. I got my 2 months holidays. So I told my parents, I said, look, I've got my 2 months holiday. Can I at least just set up a small shop while I've got these 2 months? And then as soon as my holidays are over, I'll go back to school. They believed me. So I set up this small shop, and what I would do is I didn't have much capital. I only started with, I got loans from 3 different people, and I had about $5,000. I spent the half of that money, I spent $2,500 paying the first month's rent, buying a little bit of furniture, and buying a ticket to Dubai. And the other $2,500, I went to Dubai and I filled my suitcase with motherboards, hard drives, processors, all IT parts. And I came back to Uganda. Monday, I'd fly into Uganda. Monday to Friday, I would sell everything I had. Friday, I would get that cash, go back to Dubai, and fill my suitcase Saturday, Sunday. And I do this every weekend. So school started. I didn't tell my parents. They found out within 3 days. So we sat down as a family and we agreed. I told them, if you want me to finish my education, I will, but I'm going to end up running this shop. So if you let me do it now, I would appreciate it. So the condition they gave me, and they were amazing, and the condition they gave me was, try it for a year. If it doesn't work out, you go back to school a year below your friends. I still have that option open 17 years later. So I basically did this for 4 months. Every weekend I would go to Dubai, fill my suitcase, come back. And then finally I sat down with my suppliers in Dubai and said, look guys, you've seen me 15 times now. Can I please get some credit? Because now you know me, now you trust me. And they said, but you're from Africa. So I was like, yeah. And he goes, yeah, you're never going to pay us. So I was like, okay. So I started speaking to the other people that were buying goods from Africa. And in Dubai, there's a street called Khalid bin Walid Street. It's a computer street. It's all computer shops. So everybody from Africa would come and buy it from there. So I started speaking to all the other guys who were coming from other countries in Africa and said, how do you get credit? And they said, we don't. They don't trust us. So I was advised that if I set up a business in Dubai, I can actually get credit. So in 1996, I registered a business in Dubai when I was 15 years old. And got a tiny little studio apartment where I used to stay, where my little office was. And I started getting credit because I was a Dubai company. So I started supplying to myself, but then I went back to all these guys I spoke to, people from Nigeria, Ghana, Tanzania, and I said, you don't get credit, right? And they said, no. I said, what about if I give you credit? And they said, okay. So I was like, but will you pay me back? And they're like, of course we'll pay you back. So I said, okay. So I started flying to their countries, and I would stay with them for a few days just to get to know them. And then I'd be like, okay, look, now look me in the eyes and promise me you're going to pay me back. Otherwise, I can't come after you. I don't have the power. And I'd give them $5,000, $10,000 worth of credit. Like that, in 96, 97, I was traveling to Nigeria, Ghana, Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, Rwanda, DRC, Ethiopia, Zambia, Malawi, South Africa. So we started supplying all these different places, giving them a little bit of credit and doing it that way. Fast tracking to today, we realized our strength was that we understood that all of our countries are very unique. Africa, we're an amazing continent. We are the future, and everybody knows that now. And if they don't know that, they're really missing the boat, right? And that's why the Mara logo is the African lion. And our little joke, which a lot of people don't appreciate, is that the Indian tiger and the Chinese dragon have had their days. It's now the African lion's turn. So we quickly realized that, our strength is we understand the difference between all these different markets. We don't necessarily understand IT. So our model became, we started partnering with international companies and started setting up businesses in all these countries. So today, our group, we're headquartered in Dubai, and we have offices and investments in over 27 countries globally, but 21 African countries, including Rwanda. So, at this stage, I started at the age of 15, no ability to network. I could not network the way I can today. Very little capital. I started shaving early just so I look older, so people trust me and think take me seriously, otherwise they wouldn't even take me seriously. So we wanted to give back. A major part of my life was my spiritual leader. His name is Morari Bapu. His teaching is 3 things: truth, love, and compassion. His core teaching is, has been the basis of my life, and that really taught me that, giving back and being compassionate was very, very important. Having those values and having those ethics was very, very important. Being honest and hardworking is very important. So we set up the Mara Foundation 3 years ago, which is our non-profit social enterprise. And it's a social enterprise. It's not a charitable foundation. It is a social enterprise because it's self-sustainable. So we set up the Mara Foundation, and our whole vision and dream was to enable, empower, and inspire young and women African entrepreneurs. And the way we wanted to do that was through simple tools. Firstly, mentorship. Mentorship is an extremely important thing. I was in the session during the end, and it was amazing. I loved the questions everybody was asking, and somebody asked a question about how mentorship should be done. And mentorship is such an important tool, but we set up a mentorship program 3 years ago where we mentored 120 businesses, and it was face-to-face, one-on-one mentorship. And that's how traditional mentorship is. It's one-to-one, it's very intimate. I then met with 60 of the 120 entrepreneurs, and I asked them, how can we make this experience better for you? The feedback I got was very, very interesting. Firstly, they aspired to international mentors and not local mentors necessarily, because their impression was that local mentors have, better connections in the system, etc., and hence are successful. But because of the internet, they could actually be, aspire towards international mentors. And secondly, they wanted more than one mentor because they wanted different perspectives. My whole source of inspiration when I was young, and I am still young, I like to believe anyway, but when I was very young, was I used to read biographies, and biographies used to be a huge source of inspiration for me. Biographies that actually showed me stories of people starting from nothing and creating something. So our mentorship platform, we then created an online mentorship platform which has 300 mentors globally. We launched it in Silicon Valley so that we get a lot of American mentors and Silicon Valley tech-based mentors. And today we have over almost close to about 200,000 businesses in Africa that we provide mentorship to. So mentorship was a very important piece. Another piece of the puzzle through the Mara Foundation was the whole, mentorship is one piece that you get guidance, you get advice, you get hand-holding, you can ask questions, you get the necessary answers. But then at the end of the day, partners and capital is very, very important. So we set up something called the Mara Adventure Capital Fund, which is a venture capital fund which invests in young entrepreneurs and women entrepreneurs, which kind of gives them that helping hand. So Mara Foundation for us is I spend almost 40% of my time on the Mara Foundation, which is our nonprofit, and 60% on the group. It's something very personal to us. We're launching a new initiative called Mara Women, which is the whole focus of young entrepreneurs, and now Mara Women is going to be focusing on women entrepreneurs and how we can enable, empower, and inspire women entrepreneurs in Africa. The amazing thing that has been that since we launched this, an organization out of Washington, D.C. called Network for Teaching Entrepreneurship, NFTE, they actually approached us and they want to launch Mara Mentor, which is our mentorship platform, in China, Mexico, and Ireland. And just to know that as an African initiative, we're going to be launched in markets such as China, Mexico, and Ireland, gives us that good feeling that, we are a source of innovation as well. My whole thing is, as young people, our population is about 11 million people here. I was just told that between the ages of 15 and 35, it's almost 38% of our population, which is over 4 million. We are the future. This is the future of the country. This is the future of the region. This is the future of the continent. It's our responsibility. There was a question also about, we are, the whole theme of, we are who we have been waiting for. And that's absolutely relevant. And there was a question earlier that I heard of, we are who we have been waiting for, but then why haven't we still got what we want and what we need? But that requires persistence, that requires determination, that requires innovation. It doesn't happen overnight. I think we cannot take for granted. I travel 25 days a month. I go to so many countries. We've got investments in 21 African countries. I try and visit all these places. We as Rwanda cannot take it for granted, and I'm telling you this from, I've seen it all, I've seen it everywhere, that we are so lucky as a country. The leadership we have here is honestly rare and very, very, very unique. His Excellency Paul Kagame has done an amazing job of transforming this country, an amazing job. It's only been 19 years. Right? And where we are today, when I mention Rwanda to people, when I mention Rwanda when I'm traveling abroad, there's such an amazing feeling about it. Immediately how clean the city is, and the mayor's here as well, and I was telling him earlier that, it's such a beautiful city. The way lives have been transformed, the way you can see the energy in this place. Honestly, I came, and I was telling the First Lady that I've seen many other initiatives from lots of different First Ladies and other initiatives of this nature, but when I saw the energy and the genuineness of this initiative, it's very, very touching to see this. And what the Mbutu Foundation is doing is just unbelievable. So I would really, really like to, make you all realize, and we cannot take it for granted, that we are very lucky with the kind of leadership and the transformational mindset that we've got here. So as young people, this is ours to mess up. This is an amazing foundation that we've got that we can work off. We have to, I give my whole thing is, and I don't necessarily follow this all the time, and my weakness is that I'm very, very impatient. But, you've got to think big. You've got to dream, right? This is the time for us to dream. But you've got to start small. You've got to be practical. You want 1,000 employees, start with the 1. Grow it slowly. Be practical, go step by step. Honesty and truth, being honest, being completely true to yourself and true to others around you is absolutely critical. This world is so small. This world is so small, what goes around genuinely comes around. Love, being loving, being caring, and being compassionate. I mean, if I didn't have the necessary love around me when I needed it, I would not be where I am today. Being compassionate is critical. And my advice, and my spiritual leader, Morari Bapu, says this. He says, you should give away 10% of whatever you make to philanthropic causes and people who need it. But do it in a way where you do it like a thief. You give it and you run away. They should not feel that they owe you, and thanks to Ashish, I've got this now, and thanks to Ashish, I've got that now. You should do it in a way, in a subtle, discreet manner, but you should give away 10% of your wealth. And he says this to people, and somebody from the US went to him and said, but Bapu, I make $1 million a year, so, 10% is $100,000. So Bapu responded to him and said, no, that's true, that's a lot. Your case is different. Why don't you do this? Next year, don't make $1 million, make $500,000, then you only have to give 50,000 away. So I think the whole compassionate thing, making sure that your values are in check, being really, having that true north is very, very, very important. So I would like to just one more time just kind of tell everybody that, we are who we have been waiting for. It's our time. This is ours. Dream, think big, make it happen. Challenges were there yesterday, challenges are there today, challenges will be there tomorrow. You're going to not get knocked down so many times. You have to get up, dust yourself off, and get back to it. Somebody asked earlier as well on whether whether you still get rejected. I get rejected constantly. But the one thing that I've, with God's grace, I've managed to do is not have an ego. And if you don't have an ego, it doesn't make a difference. I will sit outside somebody's office for 4 hours with no shame if I want to get something done. And if they reject me, I'll go back the next day. But you're not going to give up. And that's the most important thing, right? Never give up. Always stay positive, and life's too short. I mean, give back, create a positive, make a difference. Leave a mark, but leave a positive mark. I would once again like to thank the First Lady. I think the Ubuntu Foundation, the initiative has been amazing, and I can see from the little interaction I've had with you that this is a very genuine thing from your end, and I would really like to thank you and congratulate you for what you've created so far. Best of luck, everybody, and Murakoze Kyane.